I'll call the February 25th regular town council meeting to order. Let's all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right, there are no proclamations or presentations this evening, so we'll go to public petitions, communications, and public participation. On any subject within the jurisdiction of the town council, please note that there is a 2-minute limit to public comment. So if that anybody in the room who would like to make public comment tonight. Anybody online? Go back to the room.
Good evening, all. I'm Dennis Deegan, 689 Tolland Stage Road, Tolland, Connecticut. I just wanted to, share a few thoughts after having the pleasure of being at the combined meeting the other night. A couple things really jumped out at me, and 2 minutes doesn't allow time for everything I'd like to say, so I'll try to summarize. First of all, while I certainly believe, and my background would suggest I'm a supporter of things run efficiently and effectively, cost effectively, government and schools are not a business, okay? They are not a business. Businesses get to decide what customers they serve, what services, products, price, and their sole purpose is profit, sole purpose, okay? So governments and school boards are there for the well-being of people, all the citizens in the town, not just the chosen few who either do or don't want to pay taxes. Fortunately for all of us in this room, of which I'm included, if we hadn't made that jump to democratic capitalism 100 or so years ago, none of us would probably have a formal education, okay? So I think we have to put things in perspective. Beyond that, getting, I guess, to the point, I was, I want to say blown away, but I guess I shouldn't say something like that. I was really taken aback, quite honestly, Mr. Chair, when you looked across the room at the Board of Ed and basically told them that they were in the wrong ballpark when it came to what they were proposing for increases, okay? And candidly, I thought, I guess maybe if you're talking for the whole council, I should be looking at the whole council. But I think I lauded I guess he's the chair, it's the first meeting I've been to of the board, who actually proposed a budget that wasn't just the number you wanted, but basically put things on the table that represented what they had been working on for the past year, to actually give everyone, I'll be done in a minute, which I thought that was rude too, by the way he handled that, it would be good to look at everything from a total basis and come to some conclusions. So I'll leave it at that. And again, I would hope that no one here feels that they in of themselves are the ones that make this decision, but it should be collective. And it shouldn't be driven by, quite honestly, any one individual. And I think it should be driven by the constituents of this town. And I know not everybody votes, right? But it should be driven by them and the views. And if you're serious about having a good school system, you have to pay for it, okay? Thank you. Thank you for the extra time.
Do you have anybody online who'd like to make public comment? Go back to the room. Go over to online one more time. All right, thank you. We'll now go to our public hearing item 6.1 on the agenda, which is a consideration of a resolution to approve changes to the tax abatement ordinance, as discussed at our previous meeting. Brian, David, if you have any comments, or we can just go on.
David, whatever you want to say?
Yeah, I mean, I would just note, I think as we mentioned at the last meeting, that the EDC worked collaboratively to develop these changes, which are intended to, I guess, just add a little bit more of a process to the process of getting a tax abatement. Ultimately, it still leaves the full decision as to what to do to town council as authorized by the state statute, but requires them, I guess, to sort of generate a report that gets into kind of the numbers and outlines the justification for the tax abatement before it comes to you.
Thank you, Dave. That I'll entertain a motion to open the public hearing for item 6.1.
So moved.
Is there a second for that motion?
Second.
All right, is there any discussion? All right, we'll go around the room. Councilor Butler,
Aye.
Councilor Noonan.
Aye.
Councilor Yudichak.
Aye.
Councilor Moran.
Aye.
Councilor Beebe.
Aye.
Councilor Shay.
Aye.
Okay, so the public hearing is now open. So this is the public's opportunity to weigh in on this ordinance. Unlike public participation, there is no time limit for the hearing item. However, items must be, or comments must be relevant to the public hearing discussion. So we'll go back to the room. There's any public comment. Go online. Go back to the room.
Thank you. Just Dennis Deegan, 679 Tolland State Road. I guess the only thought that I've had is one that I think mentioned last year when the subject came up, and I know Councilwoman, sorry, Marilee, I don't know your last name, mentioned it last week that I would love to hear what that formal structure is. Is it included in the draft here? Because I know one of the things, I know you can't, I'm sorry, it was rhetorical. Understanding what the cost drivers are of anyone we're giving that to, and then what the benefits are, and what's that, I hate to use the word quid pro quo because it's getting a bad rap right now. But basically, what is it that we're giving up for what this town is gaining, and what are the extra costs, if any? I think back to when that developer wanted to come in here and put this enormous structure in there, whether I'm not making a decision one way or the other is positive or negative, but someone that puts that in there and expects that there's going to be a total tax, forgiveness or whatever, when they're going to be increasing the cost of this town by 10, 20, 30%, whatever it is, given what was going on there with fire department, police or whatever. I hope that all that is really seriously taken into consideration. Thank you.
Go online. Go back to the room one more time. Go online one more time. Okay, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Can we ask questions?
I think after we close the public hearing, we can talk about it some more as the council.
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. Councilor Butler,
Aye.
Councilor Noonan.
Aye.
Councilor Yudichak.
Aye.
Councilor Moran.
Aye.
Councilor Beebe.
Aye.
Councilor Shay.
Aye.
Okay, so the public hearing is closed. So now council has an opportunity to talk about this item one more time, and if it feels comfortable to vote or amend the ordinance. So open it up, Councilor Beebe.
Okay, so I think we had a brief comments about this before.
Yeah. And
there are a couple, excuse me, items that are talking about the proposed or the possible benefit to the town in the ordinance language, as well as under possible impact to other Tolland businesses, other 136-53B. And do we have an understanding of the criteria that we would be using to evaluate these items, benefit and impact?
Sorry, I'm just trying to look for where.
So the consideration of the impact of the tax abatement on existing Tolland business is in red, and that's on the second page or page 6 of 42, 136-53 subline B. And then the 136-52 paragraph A, excuse me, at the end of the sentence said the needs of the property owner and the potential benefit to the town. So it's easy for the property owner, I think, given the financial statement and other criteria that they would present to prove the benefit or their needs. But I'm interested in understanding the criteria that we would apply as part of the benefit to the town part as well as the impact to other businesses part.
Yeah, I don't think there's formal criteria. I think in the way the state law is written, you know, the town council has wide latitude in what they could decide to give and not give in terms of abatements. And when writing this ordinance, we wanted to give towns councils a little bit of flexibility. You know, we might provide some guidelines for things to be considered in that decision, but we're not looking to put in very specific criteria. Dave, I don't know if you have any other recollections in this conversation.
Yeah, I would just add a couple items. I think, so item D, I think gets a little bit into benefit and how we might quantify that from a net fiscal impact standpoint. So, you know, we can determine if we abate X number of dollars over Y number of years, but we're getting Z investment, and what impact that has on municipal services. We can kind of do some math to figure out if there's a positive, negative impact of the tax payment on existing businesses. Yeah, I mean that's probably a little bit squishier. I think we can evaluate based on you know, if it's a new business in town or a new type of business. If it's something that is directly competing against something that already exists, that probably you can suss out as more of a potential negative impact versus a brand new sort of business may not.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, no, and this is what I've been interested in trying to clarify, because
Yeah,
we're asking the businesses in the towns to actually shoulder some of this cost in lieu of the new business shouldering the cost. So I think it's fair to say, okay, here are the criteria upon which we might evaluate. I think you've answered my question. Thank you.
yeah. To be clear, you know, I'll just add part D over there is more specific, like Dave said. You know, we're trying to figure out what the numbers are when evaluating these, but part B is kind of more what my comments were. We're focused on. We want to give the council a little bit of latitude in how they interpret that section, but at least want them to consider the impact of the firms.
Thank you.
Any other questions from councilors? Councilor
I'll just reiterate what I said last meeting. I thank you, Jacob, and the EDC for putting this together. I think this is already more sort of structure and guidance than we may have had before. And it's still, so it has the EDC being involved a little bit more. It gives things a little bit more definition, but still leaves the ultimate decision to council, and still gives us the flexibility we need to sort of make those sort of policy decisions that you were mentioning. So thank you for the time and effort on that.
Thank you. Anything else?
Just as like to piggyback off of Councilor Brad, just to pick your brain a little bit more, maybe Jacob, what flexibility do you think it gives us? All of that structure, what flexibility do you think it might give us?
So nowhere in the ordinance does it imply that a business is entitled to a tax abatement, which is important. So, you know, we get businesses that will request an abatement. The Economic Development Commission can evaluate those requests. It comes to council. We have some latitude in deciding whether we want to grant that. So that's what I. Thanks. Yeah. Councilor Shea.
Sure. Thanks, Jacob. So I kind of echo Councilor Moran's sentiments too. I thought after reading the original, and I did recall reading your draft, Jacob, a while back on this. After I read it, I'm like, oh yeah, I do recall that I've already reviewed this. But when you looked at the original one compared to the amended draft, I like the additional touches that sort of required financial information and established somewhat of a criteria without really getting too deep into, you know, very strict criteria. So as Councilor Moran had mentioned, it does give us a lot of flexibility, which I think is important. when reviewing certain business developments. And then also the concern that that was mentioned too was that, you know, we have to be careful that we don't harm existing businesses by allowing businesses that may, you know, just sort of replace something that's already here, and the town doesn't develop any kind of advantageous revenue in the future, because basically you gain one but lose another. So I think it was a good job. Appreciate the work you guys did.
Thank you, Councilor Shea. Any other? I guess if there's no other comments, I'll entertain a motion to adopt the amended ordinance as written.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any last discussion? We'll go and do a roll call vote. Councilor Buckler,
Aye.
Councilor Noonan,
Aye.
Councilor Yudichak,
Aye.
Councilor Moran,
Aye.
Councilor Levy,
Aye.
Councilor Shea.
Aye.
Right, I'm an aye as well, so that motion passes. Thank you, everybody. All right. Thank you, Dave.
Thanks, Dave. Thanks, Dave.
Yeah. So that brings us to item 7A, reports of boards and committees responsible to the council. So different from our council liaison item. I'll go to Councilor Yudichak and Councilor Beebe if you'd like to give us an update on
Yeah.
Firehouse.
Yeah, both can, absolutely. I'll start. So first, the committee, excuse me, I'm a little cold. We welcome Marley Beebe to the committee, which is great with her background. And I think everybody knew Marley on the call, so that was pretty easy as well. So tonight was a special meeting to vote to hire an architect to work on priorities that were listed from our site walk a few weeks ago for Station 440 and 140. But as we go, it changed quickly because the town got their first look at the draft of the Fitch study. So now we're reprioritizing Station 440 and 140, which we found out during the meeting. So now we're gonna basically, Brian, correct me, because it all kind of went pretty quick. We're basically gonna just do it formerly as well. We're just basically redoing the roof over at 440 and then look to see if we're ADA compliant with the restrooms, even though it's just a volunteer station. It's still, like Brian says, just pushing the needle a little bit on that. And then do a few other things and then use the rest of the balance of the money, what we have left to Station 140. And so we voted up to $50,000 to go ahead to work on the architect portion. Charlie, if I missed anything, or
No, I
Brian,
think that's, I mean, we did a not to exceed and gave,
Not to.
and with Megan to provide a revised scope.
yes,
And so the design firm is gonna take that revised scope and then to work off of a not to exceed number rather than a fixed $50,000 based on the revised input. So, and they will give us then their priorities, conceptual cost estimate, conceptual, you know, like 10% type design. So that'll give us an ability to look at what we need to moving forward.
so it's good.
Just ask a clarifying question.
Sure.
So it's a, you voted on not to exceed, they're gonna do some research on conceptual stuff, or is that 50,000 for actual like?
No, that's a phase one. So according to the design layout for how under the American Institute of Architecture, how they work would be phase one is like the conceptual design. So they would take the scope of work, which is defined in the agreement and will be modified based on today's meeting, and they will provide conceptual drawings, conceptual cost estimates for the scope that is being redefined by Megan. And then they will do a final report and give that to the town. And then from that menu, the town will make some decisions
Okay,
on how to proceed. And that is not construction drawings, it's not a biddable set, that's would be in the future.
yeah, you and I had talked a little bit about it, but it was a blur, so I just.
It runs really quickly in a couple months.
Yeah.
All up to the final minute, basically, but, yeah, so I look forward to the next step in working with this gentleman.
Thank you.
Yeah.
The contaminated well task force did meet, but I think the executive session also got an update, so we're gonna with that. Brian, do you have any updates from either EHHD or PROG?
Nope, status quo.
Okay,
I would add that the EHD has been very helpful.
Yeah.
In the contaminated wells aspect of it, as you heard tonight.
Mhm.
You're listening tonight, the real problem is what are we gonna do about unregulated water softeners in neighborhoods affecting other people's water? And that is a DPH problem,
Mhm.
not an us problem. It's a DPH problem in that regulation. EHD is pushing DPH to start coming up with some controls on that system.
And one other question, I know we've gotten some emails to council about potential funding cuts that have been proposed for EHHD.
Yes, and that's at a state level, too early to start sniffing around there. I did write a letter asking them not to cut the funding to EHD, funding cuts to EHD would come back to us.
Okay,
And I'm pretty sure Tammy and our senator did as well,
okay,
and other town managers.
thank you, Brian.
Yep.
I think I'm missing any boards or committees. So I'll go to second item, reports of town council liaisons. We'll go to Councilor Buckler first.
Sure, so, permanent celebration committee met, from here on out until May, they're gonna be discussing the Memorial Day, celebrations. They're kind of putting together a list of things that need to be looked into. There's, as far as the parade goes, there's several vendors and people that come, they have to talk to and kind of fit the last portion of their budget for. I believe, we're looking into maybe getting some ability to record these meetings.
Moving forward, the PCC meetings will be recorded. We'll likely do it in the library with the new media center that we have is run the meetings there. I know we did a test run. It was not, there was some features that were shut off that would make it much better for that. Yes, and if not that, an owl here or elsewhere in the building, that the meetings will be recorded moving forward. Thank you for reaching out to me on that.
Which going forward, I think is going to be helpful, kind of keeping an accurate log of what's being discussed during the meetings and there's a lot, especially when there's a lot of turnover, there's a way to go back and review what's been done in the past, so you're not reinventing the wheel. So I think that would be a good plan going forward.
Is the parade the 25th of May? No,
Ooh.
I'm gonna quiz you.
The parade. There is a date. May 25th, you're correct.
I would add that we're also out of the cannabis fund.
Sorry, what was
Out
that?
of the cannabis fund,
Okay.
which specifically delineates community events,
Mhm.
that we've increased the funding of the PCC for our community events, not a ton, but a decent amount.
Yeah,
And that we're looking to really jazz up the Memorial Day parade, make it more about the veterans. And the school band and chorus will likely be incorporated, and venue change, hopefully all of it'll be on the green. Moving forward as to tuck behind Parker.
yeah,
So just a lot of positive things thanks to the new direction PCC is going.
that's great.
It is really big, 'cause a couple $100 really makes or break it for
Yeah.
them. And they have a lot of good people come out to participate in the events, and they do work with us to get the cost down, but there's only so far they can go before they just have to say, no, we can't participate. So I think that's great that they're using those funds for PCC.
It's great, yeah, it's not a whole lot of money in the grand scheme of the town expenditures, but you definitely notice it.
Huge impact,
Definitely very good for
yeah.
social
Yeah.
impact on the town. Councilor Newman, nothing to report. Councilor Lucia?
Yeah, so I missed the commission with people with disabilities meeting last Thursday due to the joint meeting, but I did read their minutes. Just go over it real quick. They discussed the new grant that the town was awarded regarding Old Post Village. They discussed that because they'll bring a lot of their units up to ADA compliance, which is a great thing. And then they started talking about the draft newsletter for next month as well, compliance office with grievance processes. And what else? That's really the top things it looks like they talked about, was those two things when I went through the minutes.
Thank you. I had no meetings at that since our last meeting, Councilor Moran.
The HDC canceled their February meeting, and then the only other thing I wanted to mention, sort of, to piggyback off of Jacob, that the contaminated wells task force did meet, and just, we had an update as well, the whole council did that before this, but, certainly, Langen is doing sort of a very comprehensive analysis of a multifaceted problem, but they're definitely moving towards resolution, trying, as Brian mentioned with the water softener, so hard work is still continuing on that.
Agreed. Councilor Eby?
So, last night was a planning and zoning meeting and I was not able to make it because I had my work meetings ran way late. However, there was discussion about, possible, locations in the zoning regulations where waivers or modifications could be provided, in the regulations without triggering, a need to go to the zoning board of appeals, so not treading, or overstepping the bounds that would properly be the domain of the zoning board of appeals. They started a discussion last night. They will go section by section, continue on March 10th, continue on March 24th, and I will bring you guys more discussion about that as it happens. And then there was another amendment by the town of Tolland to propose zoning regulations to allow for existing elderly nonprofit housing developments to make limited expansions to their facilities by zoning amendment, which I assume is relevant to our ongoing affordable housing and elderly housing issues. So as that goes forward, I will definitely bring you more information.
The thing about the zoning board of appeals make it a little bit easier for homeowners.
So the planning and zoning commission has to be careful about how they can give themselves flexibility, but you can't create a regulation and then arbitrarily waive it, right? So if there is if the homeowner falls into a category where it constitutes quote unquote taking, which so compliance with the regulation would prove to be a technical taking of the property, a diminution of value, and the courts have done a whole bunch of stuff on this, and it's all over the place sometimes, right? We go from the sublime to the ridiculous on this topic. So some of those items would properly be an application to the zoning board of appeals, but the planning and zoning commission can give itself the flexibility to waive might not be the right word, but to be flexible in the regulations. Sometimes there's a supermajority required, or there's some trade-offs that are required. If you provide more landscaping, then you can have a reduced setback kind of thing.
Okay.
That kind of stuff. We had gone down that road quite a few years ago and had a whole bunch of it in the regulations, and then kind of dialed it back as some people were looking for certainty, and some of those people were developers were looking for certainty. And it looks like what we're doing now is going back and looking at areas where we can make it a little bit more flexible,
Okay.
which is not a bad thing
Yeah.
from my perspective.
Okay.
Well, I'll let you know how it goes.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Councilor Shay?
Sure, I'll be pretty quick. So the Tolland Water Commission did meet. It was a very quick meeting. And the one thing that came out of it is that the Tolland Water residents who are on the public water system will now be able to get insurance on their water lines, the same insurance that's offered by Connecticut Water. And there's 3 different levels of that insurance that they can get, and it basically covers, depending on the insurance that they get, it covers basically from the water line right up to the fixtures, but not including the fixtures in their house. So that could be quite advantageous for a lot of people, give them a little bit of peace of mind about their plumbing. Only offered to residents, not offered to businesses. And that was basically it.
Thank you. Great.
just let me hear a quick update on Board of Ed.
Oh, yeah. Alright.
So a couple weeks ago, at the Board of Ed meeting, Kristen, Jen, and Mary, I think you all were on it. But anyways, obviously they sent the 7.34% to the town manager, which we had a joint meeting about last week. So I don't really need to get into too many details about that unless people want me to repeat it all again as well. I list the high priorities if you want, though. It was full-time, 2 full-time SROs, 1 full-time social worker, keeping the pathways program going, and I believe social worker MTSS programming, I think were their big priorities on there. And then they also were going to bonus school calendar, but that was put aside, will be voted on at the next meeting. And then they did some policy changes on policy 4060, sexual harassment of students, and policy 57, sexual harassment in the workplace. This is reverting back to their 2021 policies because of the new, I believe, but because of new federal laws. I believe that is it.
Thank you. Not missing anybody? All right. We'll go to new business now. Item 8.1, consideration of a resolution making an additional appropriation for Langdon Engineering and Environmental Services.
Yes, as discussed at length, in executive session, but now in public, last year or the year before, I think 2 years ago, actually, we were directed by the Connecticut DEP to obtain an engineering consultant to assist us with solutions in the water, the contaminated wells issue. Obtaining said consultant has costs. We have run out of money, and we're looking to add another $51,575 to that to fund Langdon. With me, I have Langdon, as well as Mike Wilkinson, who's been our steward on the town side through all of the contaminated wells issues.
Yeah, I'll just say briefly, as the resolution speaks to, it's $51,575. It's really to continue what we're doing, to pay down a couple things we've already done with Langen, also to complete an analysis in the Lakeview Heights area, and also to provide some funding to hopefully meet with some individual residents at Lakeview, and also hopefully possibly in the Vineyards area. So that's most of what the authorization would cover if approved.
Thank you, Mike and Brian. Any questions from counselors? Talk this, you guys got a briefing beforehand. Guess I'll entertain a motion to adopt the resolution as drafted.
So moved.
Second. All right. Is there any discussion? All right, Counselor Butler. Counselor Noonan. Counselor Yudichak.
Aye.
Counselor Moran.
Aye.
Counselor Beebe.
Aye.
Counselor Shay.
Aye.
All right, and I'm an aye as well, so motion passes. Resolution is adopted. Great,
Thank you.
thank you, Mike. We'll go to item A2, consideration of a resolution authorizing the town manager to execute or deliver on behalf of the town of Tolland an application and contract with the State Library Association for a historic documents preservation grant for fiscal year 25-26.
Okay, thank you. This is a grant that we apply for every year. In order to apply for the grant, I had to get permission from council to apply for said grant. The grant is $2,000 for Kathy McGadon to continue her work in historic preservation of our records. She does an outstanding job in the clerk's office, especially in this regard, and while we're here, in many other regards. There is a resolution attached, and I would request that you approve it so we can apply for the grant. I believe Kathy McGon somewhere on here if you have any questions, but this is pretty simple. Apply for a $2,000 grant.
Thank you. Any questions from councilors? I've got one. Is it 2,000 or 5,000? Because
I thought it was 2. It could be 5. That was off the top of my head.
it looks like there's one thing for microphone How many of town records is 2,000 and then?
Yes, you're right,
Yeah, okay. Either way,
5,000, I apologize.
it's fairly small. Questions? I'll entertain a motion to adopt the resolution in item A2. There a second?
Second.
So, give it to Councilor Butler, I don't know. I heard you slightly louder. Okay, any discussion? All right, Councilor Butler,
Aye.
Councilor Noonan.
Aye.
Councilor Yudichak.
Aye.
Councilor Moran,
Aye.
Councilor Beebe.
Aye.
Councilor Shay.
Aye.
I'm an aye as well, so resolution's adopted. Item A3, there are no appointments. That's correct?
Yep.
Yep. There's also no old business, so that brings us to report of the town manager, item 10.
Great, thank you, sir. I'll start with the Fitch Public Safety Consultant that we had. The report isn't done, but we met and discussed the finalization of said report. Without stealing too much of their thunder, we're in good shape. The beef of our calls is EMS, ambulance. They recommend at some point as population increases, moving to 24-hour staffing and facilities to do that. It is, I believe, in the best interest of the town to explore that. And they kind of push towards one central fire station in town. To not invest in the distal ones, one central to some consistency in response time with 24-hour staffing, which would avail us to be able to develop the area where the current fire 240 on Merrill Road is, and develop that area in the training center as well, if we were to find another location. Much to talk about there. I mean, just much to talk about. However, that is really the beef of the report. If we move to a central station, while it would require more staffing likely, it would mean less apparatus for us as well. So there's a trade-off. And again, it's all about making our residents safer, but at the same time, I have to keep an eye on fiscal responsibility. The report is, I believe, adequate. Mike Wilkinson sat it with me for all of it. He met with, I know the chief and assistant chief were with what their discussions today, were pleased with it. And I don't know if anyone else met with them. Yeah, and so we await the final copy.
Do we know about when that's gonna be, and will Fitch come back and do a presentation?
Yes.
for us?
Yes, that's included and discussed. He's hammed up pretty good in March, so sometime after that, I believe, he said he's booked right through to March around the country, but he definitely, that is included in our thing here.
Thank you. Is there anything else in your report?
Oh, I don't want to steal theirs. Oh, I'm sorry.
Your time.
Our DPW garage is coming along fine. However, there's some headaches for Megan. She's doing just an incredible job. Forget about grants. Now this is on the building side of things. We hit a lot of ledge. We're doing what we can, working with DPW where we can help out, we can, but it is getting tight, and she's doing an outstanding job. DPW, we made one promotion to fill in Scott Howe's spot as the highway supervisor. And we're gonna likely make another one tomorrow. Next time I'll have, at some point, I'll have at least one of those come in and meet with council. And we can look at them. I've had extensive conversation with those involved in moving forward and really professionalizing some of the processes they're in. Like a lot of DPWs around here, things are kind of stuck in how they were, and I'm looking to move that forward. I met with today with our ethics board, our ethics commission chair. She has presented some changes to our current policy, mild to say the least. They had come up with those about a year ago. It was not a good time to bring those forward. And we're, as things settle here out, we're gonna have our town attorney look at them, and then likely come to you with some very basic changes to the very old ethics commission policy that we have. So it was a good meeting. They do an outstanding job, and very happy to have them. And again, I say this 100 times, I enjoy their anonymity and the fact that they stay out of everything. I'm working with our state contingent on a lot of the bills that are coming forward. They have questions often. A lot of times, a lot of those questions go to our tax assessor, financial people, and as well as public safety here and there, to include Chief Lytle of the state police. I want to thank the Board of Education and Town Council for the joint meeting last week. It was great. It was an improvement, and I'm very, very happy. While I'm in the neighborhood, my budget my proposed budget is near completion. I can tell you, we're ready, and I stand by where I think the budget should be, and there's a lot of things I have to look at and taking into consideration, unfortunately. The rink is closed. I think that was a success story this winter, is how much we got out of the rink. I'm happy to say it's closed because that means it's warming up. It was certainly warm today, and I don't know if we'll see 4 days below 32 degrees to keep it open. As soon as we can take it down, we will. I'm open to any questions.
Thank you. Councilor Newman?
Yeah, I just had a couple clarifying questions. Do we have an update on the retirement community adjacent to the red and white? Were they able to get a grant?
Oh, geez.
For-
Yes.
and that's just coming up.
It was camouflaged in with what Mayor Lee was saying with the zoning, but Dave Corker did a great job pushing some stuff through zoning to make sure that we can go through with about 6 million. 2 million the town received, and then 2 other entities received the remaining 4 million, where we are gonna make all those apartments ADA, but also make a boatload of other improvements to that area, both aesthetically and physically. It'll be a big change, 6 million into there. It's good for the property values of anyone around that area. It's gonna be a positive change, and good for, as Chairperson Udcheck indicated, the People with Disabilities Commission to have all those apartments ADA. So there's a massive amount of work for poor Megan. And she takes on where people in other entities do not pick up and haul the weight. She does. So she's, I know I talk about her every meeting, but certainly I'm very appreciative of what she does on so many levels. So yes, and let me add one more thing. I can confirm at this point that our mill rate will be dropping significantly. And it's a pretty big number, likely more than we anticipated. So that's positive news as well.
And then just to parallel that, just because there have been questions through town, and I have the same questions as well. What is the town's responsibility for the senior housing behind Parker? Because
Behind Parker, we lease it.
Okay,
That's it.
so I know that there was questions about, their walkways and,
Yep, I think they have about 50 years left on the lease.
okay. So,
Is that behind Parker or at Parker?
I'm sorry,
Parker Place.
That's Parker Place,
right
okay.
here, I'm used to calling it.
Yep, yep,
So tis,
Yeah, but we meet with them regularly.
okay,
I know that our human services folks are there regularly, have people in there that are very close to them, and anything that if there's a problem, we communicate. We can't push too far, but we are certainly, I'm not very shy about
right,
expressing problems to Access, who runs that facility.
because I know some of the questions were just, are the walkways safe, is somebody putting.
We are looking at putting solar there.
Folks, yeah,
They are looking at putting solar there
okay,
in an effort to defray their costs so they can make improvements
Okay.
elsewhere.
okay. Thank you.
Councilor Moran?
Just one question. Megan is obviously always doing a great job writing grant applications, and she seems to step in sort of in many different roles to try to save the town money. How did she sort of end up wearing the project manager hat in a number of these things? Because I'm sure that's time consuming, and she also is writing tons of grants and bringing money to the town that way. I'm just wondering how we ended up.
Our human services director used to do that. And it seemed more appropriate that the grants person do that, because so much of when we're gonna build something, there's almost always a grant involved anyways. And it seemed like a natural transition, and she stepped up. I will look to address Megan's compensation at some point outside of the regular process, as I each year try to pick at least one person. But I'll see what I can do. She has certainly stepped up and taken that, but it was done by Bev prior to. And now that we have a grants person, she's doing a great job and learning.
She's great.
But there's just so many projects that she's managing, between she has stepped up and basically taken over the Parks Garage. She has, Old Post Village, kicking around. We still are dealing with future projects coming up. We have the firehouse, she just got done with 340 and now she's got 440 and 240. We just switched engineers. There is just a lot on her plate, and I have not mentioned anything about a grant at this point, which is her main job. Again, I'll be looking at, I've found some savings. I'll be looking to make sure that we look at that.
Thank you. Any other questions from counselors?
Jen is,
Oh, sorry.
It's okay, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's kind of a question statement. Telling you services, summer theater camp, you're gonna be having
That's coming up, a new meeting. The first meeting's coming up, right?
Thursday.
Yep.
5:30 is the open house.
What a wonderful program.
Yes.
Amazing. 75 to 100 kids, I think we did last year, involved in that all summer.
Yeah, it was the most I think they've ever had.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's just, outside of kids who are involved in sports, this is just such a wonderful outlet for our kids in town over the summer. So thank you to Human Services and Youth Services. I can't wait. It's always big fun. I love going up and watching rehearse and such. So thank you.
Senior Center is where the meeting is too.
Got it.
do they need donations? Do they
I think they always,
I'm sure they wouldn't say
if
no.
we can provide some information, one of my kids was a theater kid and I agree with you, it was like key. So if you wanna,
from personal experience, last year, I think I ended up overpaying and then just kind of used it as a donation, and they were very happy to accept that. So
I'll ask.
I think it's a great program, though the kids really enjoy it, and
Yep.
it does a lot for the town.
yep,
Thank you. Thank you for letting us know. Anybody else? Comments for our manager?
I had a quick
Yeah.
question, we had discussed, and pardon me if I was not at the meeting where you guys followed up on this, because I was not on the commission, I think, when this might have been first discussed, but we were talking about, you still pursuing, the sidewalk connection from the green down to
We are.
Dunkin' Donuts-ish?
Yes. Thank you for bringing Megan up again.
Well, that you said that, then I was like,
I believe it's LoSiP that we're applying
Yes,
for
yes,
that.
yes.
And we're looking at different plans as we go. We're looking at sidewalks on both sides, one side or the other. We want to apply for the plan that is most likely to get us the grant award. For it. So that's where we are. That is moving forward. There's no finalization of plans that we're working with our Cardinal Engineering on. But at the same time, we're doing a favor to UConn and Dr. Jackson, who lives here in town. With his engineering students at putting together a plan as well. Megan's also handling those students. Her and I have gone up to a class up there. So it's a lot. But again, if we get the grant, Megan's gonna jump out the window here, but if we get the grant, it'll be fantastic. If not, we'll try for it again next year.
thank you.
Nice comments. All right, thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
That brings us to item 11. We have 3 sets of minutes to adopt, 2 special meeting minutes, then 1 regular meeting minutes. Is there a motion to adopt those minutes? Is there a second? Is there any discussion or suggested amendments to those minutes?
I have a suggested amendment to the Town Council Board of Education meeting minutes, because I had written you guys correspondence about, because we had written correspondence as well as testimony, we had solicited public input, so based on the Connecticut statute, the commentary was that the written communications between the public agency and the public is generally considered part of the legal record. And under the Freedom of Information Act meeting, it should be included in the meeting minutes or otherwise made available upon request. So especially since we had requested public input, and we got that in writing, my request would be that we amend this special meeting minutes of the Town Council and Board of Education to include the written correspondence that we received, which is typically done for planning. The land use boards have done this for decades. For anytime we get correspondence, it was always amended to either the packet or the meeting minutes. So
You guys
there's
aren't voting on those tonight, though.
pardon
The
me?
joint meeting,
The joint meeting, yeah.
those
Yeah,
aren't
those
on your
are-
list to vote on tonight.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
The minutes for the joint meeting are not on tonight's approval list.
Yeah, I missed that too, sorry, but yeah, that was on the 20th and we're looking at the.
I just didn't want you
okay,
guys,
I'm sorry.
I just didn't want you guys to vote
Oh,
on it
no,
when
yeah,
it's.
I'm sorry,
not on
because
there.
they were part of the thing that I
Yeah,
got sent.
yeah.
I
Uh-huh.
rescind that.
We're
Yeah.
compiling that document to
Awesome.
attach,
Thank you.
so it'll be part of the minute
Forget what
packet
I said.
when you guys vote
Thank
on
you.
it.
Yeah,
I just wanted you to have minutes to review at your leisure, but the correspondence will be part of that
Okay.
packet
yeah.
Thank
before
you.
you guys vote.
I'll just quickly address it because you brought it up. Apologies for not responding. I meant to hit send and I hadn't. sent
No
it,
worries.
but,
Everybody's been
Yeah.
slammed.
Yeah, I did have a couple questions about that, but we can talk about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
No problem.
Anyway, so any other suggestions for the minutes as written? Oh, okay, go around the room to adopt the minutes as a set. Counselor Butler.
Aye.
Counselor Noonan. Counselor Lucia.
Aye.
Counselor Moran.
Aye.
Counselor Beatty.
Aye.
Counselor Shea.
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well, so those minutes are adopted. Correspondence to council, Counselor Yudichak, do we have
Yeah.
correspondence?
Yes, we do.
Yep.
So about 26 total in the last 2 weeks. And one writer wrote in regard to applying for a steep grant for the jailhouse museum in the green. We've got 13 emails on schools, school budget that was presented to the town manager. Writer wrote in, we use available funds for the budget that we have. Emailing regarding concerns with the state of schools, concerns about the paraprofessional reductions. 2 concerns about the Board of Education budget is too high, concern on how expensive, writer concern on how expenses are going up. Another writer concerned about taxes and contaminated wells. 2 people want the town managers to support the Board of Education budget requests by the superintendent. Another person shared historical school data information. Another writer shared school rankings and scores. And the last one, an email regarding the difference between a social worker and a psychologist.
Thank you. That brings us to the chairperson's report. I do not have a chairperson's report, so we'll pass that. Now communications and petitions from council persons, item 14 and 8. Let's start have petitions or petitions. Let's see, Councilor Shea has raised his hand.
Sure. Yeah, I had a couple people that have actually reached out to me, and then I've also seen it on social media, and it was especially relevant to the great freeze we just had here for a couple of weeks. Some people have wondered or suggested whether or not we should make available to the residents of the town sand and salt that they can pick up and then spread on their walkways. Apparently, there's some towns that have had that in the past, and it's worked quite well. And we'd restrict this to residents, not people doing plowing and things like that. But if there was a place that maybe people could pick up a bucket of salt or sand to apply to their properties. So I think it's a good idea, something we should probably look into, and maybe we can talk to the DPW about it. There could be some logistics involved in where they go, and if we put a fee associated with it, how would that fee be paid, those sort of things. But just something to think about that maybe we can talk about at some point.
Thank you, Councilor Shea. I don't know, Brian, if you want to in response to that.
I can jump in. There's some history with that if you want me to talk about it, Brian.
We've had it, it was problematic, but go ahead, Mike. I would like that too, but we've had it, but go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, we did used to have it. It was problematic. We had to stop it. It was actually a liability issue. We actually caught a resident digging at the bottom of the pile. If we hadn't caught the resident in time, the person might have caused the pile to collapse on him. So after that, also the cost, it's just a cost. I'm not aware of towns that charge people for it. It's usually a free pile. So, but we can't monitor it all the time. So that's why we stopped it. It was mainly a liability issue. We were concerned about how the residents were getting the salt and how they were getting it out of there. So it used to be behind the highway garage.
Okay, yeah, I thought I heard we'd had it years ago, but I'm sorry to hear it didn't work out.
How long ago was that?
It's got to be more than a decade. I can't put a time, but it's been a while since we've had it.
If we do a sand salt mixture, we can't leave it outside,
Right.
as we discussed here.
Right.
There are problems there, and there's other abuses too. Joe, I'm happy to have our DPW director write up some of the other issues as well too, as businesses were coming in and just pillaging the pile, so for their businesses, and so it just turned into the Wild West. And
Yeah, I mean, that's why I think it's kind of a logistic issue. If there was some way to easily administrate this, and then even charge to sort of try to recoup some of the costs, that maybe it would be something to think about. But yeah, I think just like a free for all where people show up with their shovels and dig into the piles is probably not a very effective way to do that. So we just have to come up with something else if we want to pursue this.
There are comments from counselors?
Can I just follow up on Rich a little bit without, because I know they're coming, but yeah, I met with them, all the councils were given an opportunity to, so I did, so, and I don't wanna steal on thunder like Brian says, but, they do say we do need 24/7 work, but it will be a 5-year, it'll take about 5 years to do that, so. Brian said we're in good shape, but there's definitely a need for it going forward, so.
Yeah, once Fitch gives a report, it would be good for the council to kind of have a good discussion about those, and you know, I don't know if that is a 5-year plan that extends, 2.5 council terms, but
5 is a kind of a rough number.
Yeah.
It's more based on population.
yeah,
We could go 24 right now with the staff that we have, but it'd be spreading them too thin.
yeah,
Thing with ambulance coverage is our ambulance reserve fund does well. And so it'd be a self-funded thing to do. Now, do we need it to be 24 fire and ambulance cross-trained? That would be likely more expensive as to just ambulance. So a lot of things to look at, and keep those questions for when the consultants here. Keep in mind, they're just recommendations, that we're fine the way we are. They're just recommendations.
And there's gonna be a couple different options to
Sure.
for it, so it's not,
yeah.
but,
Have we done a report like this previously?
Yes.
Okay, so this is just a bringing this current.
2010, this is a much
Thank you.
deeper dive type of, based on data, and,
Okay.
The data available today was much different than when they did it in 2010.
Sure.
But yes.
That would be awesome.
there was a lot of.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think once Fitch has a presentation, we ask a lot more questions, and if there is options, I haven't looked at the report or anything myself, but maybe that would be a good time for the council to kind of provide a little bit of guidance for future councils as to what might be the best option we can deliberate at that time.
That's exciting.
I'm glad we get it, yeah. Set up the town for success in the future with public safety.
Okay, last call for communications and petitions. All right, we'll go to our final public participation. With a 3-minute limit this time, so is there anybody in the room who would like to make public comment?
Wasn't going to, but just briefly, Dennis Deegan, 689 State Road. You brought up a couple things. I just thought that probably don't hear enough positive things said that I think what you ended up doing for the Old Post Village is a super thing, a decent thing, and well done on all your part. I guess I don't know, it sounds wrong, but congratulate Councilperson Noonan for bringing up those two topics between you and Parker, just so that no one forgets about all the residents here and everyone that's involved. Councilwoman Beebe, I apologize. I'll remember your last name from now on. And finally, I just wanted to clarify the term I used democratic capitalism. I just want everyone to know that doesn't know that's a small d, not a large d. So I'm not talking about a political party. I don't want anyone out in the ether ways to be pulling their hair out because of that. So I just wanted to clarify that has nothing to do with a political party, but just in terms of the services provided. So thank you very much, all of you.
Anybody online? Go back to the room. Back online. Back to the room one more time. All right, close out public participation for tonight. It brings us to adjournment. Is there any objection to adjourning? Objection, adjourn at 8:08.